All right, welcome back everyone dito sa latest episode ng NBA Live na joke lang. Naka-favorite ko. Well, latest episode ng Deep Dive with Richard Haydarian. Kausap po natin na no less than Justice Carpio, a resident constitutional analyst kasi maraming mga debate about what does forthwith mean. Yung isang senador na nagko-collect ng Masters of Law ay medyo mukhang kailangan niya ng thesaurus to work around some of this supposedly contentious technical issue. So, Justice, today I want to talk a lot about a number of issues. Of course, balikan natin yung mga Supreme Court cases vis-a-vis confidential fund, vis-a-vis PhilHealth, and then balikan din natin ano yung, kumbaga, kung may team kadiliman at team kasamaan, sino yung mga team kabutihan? I think there were half a dozen candidates at least that you and your group are recommending pag-usapan natin sila, especially with Bam and even more in the case of Kiko, gaining momentum and having a very good chance. But bago dyan, Justice Scorpio, I want to just go back to this. Of course, we don't have to rehash what we discussed in previously, which was you are very skeptical na anything substantial will happen on the impeachment front. So now I want to just discuss about what is your take on this issue na responsibilidad ng Senado to automatically take up itong impeachment na transmit ng Congress, yung idea na forthwith. Can we talk about that? And then hypothetically, once the the trial happens in Senate, how is this different from a normal court proceedings when it comes to threshold of evidence? Kasi hindi naman kailangan beyond reasonable doubt. And of course, there's going to be a lot of prerogative by the senators in terms of determining the procedures of the trial itself. So first of all, Justice, hindi ba dapat klaro yung ating saligang batas na once na-transmit na ito ng Kongreso, automatically dapat yung forthwith na kailangan the Senate act upon it? First of all, what is your read of that constitutional issue? Because Chizo Scudero, Senator Talentino, these are all lawyers or trained in law, are making an argument na, well, let's wait for the Supreme Court essentially decide on that issue. What is your take, Justice, as a former Supreme Court Associate Justice?
Well, I interpret the term forthwith as to mean as soon as reasonably possible. The House sent it at the last minute to the Senate when the Senate was adjourning, and so the Senate was not able to take it up. But the Senate can always convene to take this up because this is not legislative matter. They don't need a call for special session. So what the Senate can do to comply with that phrase forthwith, which I interpret to mean as soon as reasonably possible, they can do the preliminaries already. Because they want to revise their impeachment rules to include judicial affidavits to cut short the trial time. They can convene and revise already the impeachment rules. And after that, they can send a copy of the impeachment articles to Sara, VP Sara, so that the 10-day period for Sara to comment or answer will run already. So a lot of preliminaries, and they can also, the revised rules can say that while they can authorize the Senate President to issue orders like requiring Sara to comment, to answer, requiring the prosecution to file a reply, and requiring the parties to submit judicial affidavits. They can put that in their rules to give all these authorizations to the presiding officer, to the Senate President. So a lot will be done while they are campaigning. So nothing, there's no waste of time, no? So when they actually resume in June 2 or even in the next Congress, they can go direct to the trial already. All these preliminaries will be done away with, and they can go direct to the cross-examination because the judicial affidavits will stand as direct examination. So then people will be satisfied that things are moving. But if they completely just stop totally without even revising the impeachment rules, I think it's not reasonable anymore to wait for 5 months before they start considering revising the rules, sending the articles to Sara to comment or to answer. So I think they should be more imaginative in doing these preliminaries.
That's very important. So basically what you're saying, Justice, is um hindi ibig sabihin na you should expect the trial to happen right away. So maybe some people are overinterpreting it, but at the same time, for some people to say, "Na wait, let's just leave it to the Supreme Court. Let's see you in June." Ang latest pa, no, di ba? After SONA pa, that's an underinterpretation, if I can put it that way, right? What you're saying is that you actually can do somewhere in the middle. I hope that's okay with you. Somewhere in the middle, kung saan at least you can get the basic procedures, to get the ball rolling basically, and then realistically looking at the proper trial after, the next Congress takes place. Is that what we're saying, Justice? Kasi
Yes.
interesting yun eh. Kasi yung schools of thought ngayon is complete opposite eh. Yung isa, hindi, wala na, transmit na, you have to act upon it. Yung isa, hindi, wala, titignan natin yung Supreme Court. What you're saying is actually, you can get the basics done now and then the actual, things will start realistically after
Yeah.
election.
Because these preliminaries will have to be done anyway. The
Right.
Senate will have to revise its rules, give Sara 10 days to answer, and then the other part, the prosecution to reply, and they will also order judicial affidavits. So
Right.
this might be done now while they are not convening, and the rules can authorize the Senate President to do all of this, to make all of these orders. Anyway, these orders will have to be issued no matter what. No.
So basically, what what we're saying is Jesus Cordero has been engaging in evasive tactics, but by basically saying,
Well,
"Ay, wala na, recess na eh. Sorry na. May bakasyon, ano na ako, mag microblading na ako." Medyo, Kasi, mukhang nakabook na yung mga ano nila eh. Yung mga
well,
sessions natin. Vicky Bello pa.
I don't know their personal schedules, but they can do things now without convening actually, because as a legislative body, this is not legislative work, no, and all these orders can be they can authorize the Senate President to give all of these orders anyway, to comment, to answer, to file a reply. That's all in the ordinary course of the trial, no.
Justice Carpio, I'm so thankful for you explaining that. Because, again, as I said, for me, the ongoing debate was just so parang completely two opposite interpretation. I think your interpretation seems the most reasonable, and that the preliminary steps have to be done. Speaking of mechanics wise, can the Senate President be compelled by the Congress or even by Malacanang to get the ball rolling here, both politically and, of course, legally speaking? Is
Well,
there a way to compel Cheese to get rescheduled yung kanyang microblading?
the House cannot compel, of course, the Senate or the Senate President. The President Bongbong cannot also, because he has really no role in impeachment. It's the sole power is with the Senate.
Not only
And
also Supreme Court? Can't Supreme Court say anything
well,
about it?
the Supreme Court can intervene. It has intervened in the case of
Right.
Chief Justice Duterte, Chief Justice Davide, but only if there is a violation of the Constitution. So this forthwith could be a violation of the Constitution if the
Exactly.
Constitution says forthwith, but you won't act until 5 months. I think that's not reasonable anymore. So they have to be creative. What they don't want is to convene, because as a trial court because they are campaigning. 7 of the 12 are re-electionists. So, and maybe Cheese doesn't want to incur their ire because they really have to campaign. So they can do all these preliminaries anyway. They have to go through this anyway. So uh, at least things will be moving already.
Um, That's interesting. Justice, sa pagkaalam ko, yung ating saligang batas ay hindi rin klaro na yung Senate President ay automatically mag-replace if ever ma-impeach, matanggal, kumbaga, yung Vice Presidente, right? Last time I checked, parang there's still a chance that
Yeah.
Speaker could be not. Because
Yes.
the reason I'm
In the
saying that is
case of
because hindi ba is important for Cheese to also have, parang to say, oy, since I could be a beneficiary of this, it's important that I project, right? Least interest, or at least I have to project that I'm not over interested in this process, right? I'm just thinking along
yeah.
from those lines. Eh.
Well, it's not automatic because if there's a vacancy in the vice presidency, uh, the the president will choose from any senator or any members of the House, and his choice will be ratified by vote by the House and the Senate voting separately, a majority of all their members,
Majority,
no, voting
50% plus
separately.
1. 50% plus 1 dapat
Yeah.
both houses.
Yes.
So hindi na pwede si Martin Romualdez. I doubt, because I doubt Martin will get the 50% plus 1 in the Senate. So that would be an interesting situation, right? No, I mean, syempre, you have to think about all of those things. Kasi if you're cheese, di ba?
Yes.
The least you want to be seen as is parang, uy, masyado kang atat, di ba? Kasi baka pwede ako maging next vice president. At the same time, you can also accuse Cheese of playing safe. Baka gusto niya mag-vice-presidente, pero 2028 pa. So I don't want to piss off the DDS, right? So it's an interesting, different interpretation. We can look at it. So I'm just trying to be fair to Cheese, right? In terms of what are different angles or reasons for him really, trying to sleep on this issue or let it, stay on ice. Now, Justice, just again for the education of people here. Dahil sobrang na-appreciate ko yung explanation mo kanina eh. Parang there's a middle way of, like you can just lay down the foundation and then let's do the trial later on with the term forthwith. Yung isa pang gusto natin maintindihan dito is Justice is ano yung pagkakaiba ng isang normal na court proceeding kung saan, beyond reasonable doubt and, pretty much clear yung procedures of how justice is gonna be delivered vis-a-vis an impeachment proceeding whereby ang daming prerogative yung mga senadors in terms of determining mga procedures and that the threshold is not necessarily the same, right? I mean, should it be beyond reasonable doubt in the same way that it is in a normal court? What are the differences, Justice, if ever? And what is the
Yeah. Well,
precedence?
in a criminal case, the quantum of evidence required is beyond reasonable doubt. Guilt is proved beyond reasonable doubt. For civil cases, the quantum of evidence is substantial evidence. No, but there's something in between which has been applied. Clear. It must be clear and convincing evidence. That's between uh,
Civil and
beyond
criminal.
reasonable doubt and substantial.
Interesting. Puro
Uh,
middle tayo ngayon, ah.
and
Puro mga
then
middle, right?
uh,
Yeah, yeah. Puro mga mid-range tayo.
and then
That's an important collect. Thank you, Justice.
and then but in the case of impeachment, there's no case saying that this is the quantum of evidence. They always say it's a political issue. It's a political body. In effect, so it's the decision of the required majority, the qualified majority, 2/3. If they think that the accused is guilty, then they can pronounce him guilty. There is no threshold that has been established because courts have been reluctant to establish a threshold because it's a political exercise. So it's very unique because there's no quantum of evidence that has been established as necessary to convict somebody who's being impeached. So it's really up to the required majority, the 2/3 vote.
what about the precedence of the Corona? Is it an apple and oranges cases? Because that was a magistrate's case versus here an elected official. Parang ang thin yung precedence, di ba? Or can we draw from the US cases? Kasi our jurisprudential ano, di ba, philosophy is very much also influenced by US. How do you think the prosecution team will approach this? Let's say you're Luistro, you're the prosecution team. How are you going to approach this from a jurisprudential point of view and precedence point of view, Justice?
Well, of course, from the point of view of the prosecutor, the lower the threshold, the better for them. It's easier for them. So they would say that as uh, as shown in past impeachments, there was no threshold required. It's up to the two-thirds vote because this is a political exercise. So I think that will hold. They will do the same because there's no decision of the Supreme Court saying otherwise. So uh, I think that will hold. It's up to the two-thirds uh, to decide.
So basically, it's political. It's a numbers game, even. It's basically a numbers game. That's what we're saying, Justice,
Well,
right? I mean,
at bottom,
to
that is a numbers game. But
be very
they,
cynical about it, yeah.
yeah, but they have to see to it that the decision will also be acceptable to the people. I mean, if it is shown clearly that the accused is innocent and they convict, there will be a backlash from the people, a political backlash again. So,
Yes, yes.
yeah, it's really a political exercise.
Now, I want to be fair, Justice. You know me. I'm a man of justice, just like you. Even though hindi ako naging justice, or um, if ikaw yung team ni Sara, who would you want to be your defense team or yung lead defense counsel? Alam mo na saan papunta yung question, Justice Carvio. Of course, it raises a logistical question too. Is it gonna be Salvador, ano ba, faded pants, Hello Kitty, meron na siya mga pants na may mga Hello Kitty na ano, Panelo, with the ano Chanel ano, or you want it to be Harry? Hanggang ngayon may manhunt pa rin, no? Harry Roque. You think Harry Roque Justice can make it back in time? If ever June na magsimula tournament. Like, that would be the, like, who will be the lead counsel? Or and
Well, who knows? Sarah might choose Harry, and that gives Harry a reason to come back.
will he have an immunity or something from all of the... sa bagay, it will be a new Congress na, di ba? Sa maging moot court na yung Quadcom hearing and all, di ba? Oh, wait, may chance
Well,
na kay Harry, no?
the yes, it's a new Congress, so all those uh, subpoena issued by the House would have expired. So he can come back after.
Moot court.
He can come back in time for the trial in the 20th Congress.
Talagang advance tayo mag-isip, di ba, Justice? We're looking at every possible, and I was like, so would it be Panelo? And you would rather have Harry, di ba? I mean, as a legal mind, Justice, who do you trust more to be your defense team? Harry Roque or Panelo?
Well, I was saying Harry so that Harry can come back.
Trap pala entrapment pala yung gagawin mo, Justice. Hindi ka na Justice pala, PNP chief ka na pala, Justice Caprio. Okay, alright, that's good, that's good. Actually, parang yun din ang ginagawa ko, ini-entrap ko na, pero parang masakit naman kay Panelo. But what's her name? Sara said her father is willing to help. You think Digong in any way could be helpful? Baka magmumura lang siya. Baka sasabi, di ba kahapon sinabi niya na ang dami, parang masyadong crowded daw. Sabi niya, patayin na lang yung mga 15 na senators para may bakante na. I rather have Digong as the lead. Say something like that.
Well, baka pag naging lead counsel siya, baka mauubos yung mga senador. Hindi
Literally.
lang 15.
Hindi lang 15 exactly. Baka yung next 24. So 15, may 9 pa mag-survive. So Robin Hood, Bongo, yun na lang sigurado eh. Oh my God. I mean, this is crazy. Imagine, Justice. I'm really excited actually to see this impeachment. I think there are going to be many interesting characters if ever this happens, no? In terms of the choosing of the prosecutor, how is that determined? Is it by the House leadership, Justice, in terms of who will be the prosecutor? Parang of course now Congressman Luistro's name came up, but how is that determined? Again, from a technical standpoint.
Well, it's determined by the House leadership who will be the prosecutors, and I think they will probably choose Congresswoman Luistro to be the lead prosecutor. Well, I think she's well qualified for that.
Right. But I mean, what if Chel Jokno and Leila De Lima win? Hindi ba more sensible Leila De Lima takes over or something like that as a former Justice Secretary? I mean, with all due respect to Luistro's legal credentials, right? I know it's a political thing, but do you think it's worth for Hidarian to go on Twitter and once nanalo sila Chel and all, de, gawin nyo ng chief prosecutor. I mean, Leila De Lima as chief prosecutor would be interesting. It would be quite like Leila versus Harry. Oh my goodness, that would be fun. I mean,
Well, the House prosecutors are allowed to engage the services of private prosecutors, and there will be private prosecutors, I understand.
So even if hindi manalo, God forbid, yung ibang magaling na kandidato, they can still be involved just in case, no? Um, and then in terms of expenditures, di ba, dun sa, what is the difference in terms of, kunyari, di ba, sa normal courts, kung uh, nanalo ka, you're also entitled to be reimbursed, right? For the legal fees or something in certain cases. What if in this case, kunyari, hindi mangyaring impeachment at ang laki ng gastos ng team ni Sara doon sa kanyang defense sa private group? Is she gonna be reimbursed? Or is she gonna be subsidized by taxpayers' money? Sorry, Justice, I'm being very particular about everything. Alam mo naman, mga Ilocano,
No,
tinitingnan namin mga gastos.
there will be no award of attorney's fees here or or other forms of damages.
I'm just concerned for Harry kasi kawawa naman si Harry. But anyway, I don't want to say more. Baka mapahamak tayo kay Harry. Baka mag-ano tayo. We'll bump into each other soon. No, but just as going back to this. Okay, let's put aside the issue of impeachment. As we see, base daw sa mga internal surveys, hindi pa lumalabas ito. Ang nakikita dito is hindi lang 41% ay pabor dun sa impeachment ni Sara. Mukhang majority na ay pabor at least sa pagsimula ng trial. So ibig sabihin, public opinion is shifting in certain direction. So time is not necessarily on Sara's side. Of course, many factors. But interestingly, Justice Carpio, pro-Sara candidates are doing better. So in a sense, parang nag-double movement, right? As the fear that Sara is getting more vulnerable increases because there's more popular support, yung base ng mga Duterte ay nagko-consolidate na. So for instance, Bato's numbers slightly improved in the latest surveys. Pababa siya last year. Ngayon medyo competitive na ulit si Bato. Bongo is very strong at number 2, right? Last year I remember there was a time barely top 5 pa siya. Amy Marcos, who is, sabi nga ni Ronald Llamas, hindi ko alam saan siya pupulutin kasi team admin ba siya? Duterte ba siya? Sabi niya, she will fight tooth and nail against impeachment. Amy is not doing too bad too. Share numbers actually jumped in the latest pulsation survey. What is
Number
your
5 or 6.
5 or 6? Very high. This is the highest I've seen her doing since, I don't know, basically ever, right? Since the surveys were So what do you think is happening here? Do you think nagpa-panic mode na kaya nagsisolidify yung pro-Duterte base?
Well, I think this is the effect of the 2025 General Appropriations Act.
There we
Because,
go.
yes, I think people now, in fact, they're saying, why go after Sara? The, she's being charged of pocketing 125 million only, while in the case of the budget, you're talking of hundreds of billions of pesos. So I think it's starting to bite, no? And I think it will only get worse in the coming days. So uh, that explains everything why they've gone up. Uh,
So
but of course,
backlash ito.
the people are actually not still think that Sarah should be held accountable, but they're saying it does not justify what the administration is doing with the budget. So this is they're punishing the administration for this. So it's really the budget that's biting them now. And that's why I'm saying they have to address this as soon as possible.
I mean,
Like,
President BBM has to
yeah,
address this.
BBM has to call for a special session to restore the budget of PhilHealth, DepEd, the four-piece and the AFP modernization. Unless he does that, then this will get worse because the people see that the hundreds of billions of pesos are being wasted.
But
So
yeah.
the 125 million that of confidential fund is uh, that is used against Sara pales in comparison.
Okay, Justice, and I think this is where we have had slight tactical communication. I won't say differences, but perhaps divergence. My concern kasi, Justice, was, as you correctly pointed out, um, the enrolled version that BBM signed didn't have yung mga bahid na duda dun sa mga BICAM, mambo-jumbos na sinasabi ng mga Team DDS. But at the same time, sa aking palagay, yung pinaka-damaging sa administration at kay BBM at yung pinaka-tumulong kila Sara was yung semantics na worst budget ever. Was that ever a accurate and I would even say responsible way to approach this, to call this the worst budget ever? Because that was exactly what the Dutertes were excited to ride on. This idea that pichugin lang yung kay Sara, etong Marcos talagang pinaka-garapalan na corrupt na ganyan. Again, I'm not against criticizing the budget. I'm just saying, was it responsible? Was it even accurate to say that was the worst budget ever at kasalanan lahat ito ni BBM? I just felt that was a bit too much, to be honest, Justice. And I think that's where we have had some differences, to be honest,
Yeah.
between, I mean, we're all on the same team. It's just that I think, feeling ko lang, masyadong ginus out ng mga Duterte campion. And you correctly pointed out, that may explain why the pro Sara team is doing well suddenly now in the surveys.
Well, it's because this is probably the biggest congressional insertion ever made in a budget. They really bloated the budget of DPWH, and we all know what that means. And they also bloated, they doubled the budget of the House, and they took away the budget of PhilHealth, PDIC, so they can put it in DPWH, put it in their own the house budget. They took away the four-piece by about 50 billion and put it in ACAP. So I do not remember anything like this before. The sheer magnitude of what they've done, and the president did not even veto a single centavo of the congressional insertion. What he vetoed was his own recommendation under the National Expenditure Program. So, and I think it's starting to be understood by the people, and this is the backlash now. But there's still time to recover.
When you say there's still time, I mean, nagsimula ng elections, di ba? So how is this going to be
Yeah,
picked again?
but he can call a
Sorry
special
about that.
session. He
Ah,
can call a special session.
right.
To just correct it. And I think it's imperative that he calls a special session to correct this because this will get worse. Because the opposition, the Duterte group will pound on this and everything will be forgotten because this is so, what they've done here in the present budget, it's so horrible. Eh, Matatabunan lahat yung kasalanan ni Duterte.
Can you explain to us, Justice, how can that special session take place? I mean, can you walk us through that? Is BBM going to
Well,
sit down there and tell his
because
friends, "But guys, curb your enthusiasm and greed. I think sumobra na kayo. We're all paying a price here. Bugsarado tayo. Ayusin natin yan. So ano mga kailangan nilang ayusin dyan? I'm spelling this out, Justice, right? Let's spell it out. I
yeah,
mean, what should BBM, if BBM is really
because
right now, what should he?
under the Constitution, it says the president can call a special session at any time. So at any time, he can call it now, no? And he'll just say, okay, just one thing, correct this following, restore the budget of PhilHealth, restore the budget of PDIC, restore the budget of DepEd, restore the budget of the four Ps and also uh, the AFP. Then you take away the win from
The win, yeah.
the attack. I mean, what will the Duterte group do? Their main argument is no longer feasible. Their main attack uh, against Bongbong administration has been resolved. Their main objection.
Okay. The way I look at it, Justice, is the Dutertes are looking for any sign whereby Marcos shows any kind of admission of gross negligence or even worse, right? What do you think from a strategic communication point could be the way? Kasi, di ba, dapat vinito, I mean, he had the chance to veto it last year and may mga adjustments daw.
Mm.
So for him to suddenly come again and say, we need to do another session, doesn't that make him look actually weak and actually admitting? Parang hindi ba dapat mas maganda sa kanya, no? Walang hindi siya magpapahuli ng buhay. Alam mo yung ganun na mindset, di ba? Na parang ang style lang Duterte is damn if you do, damn if you don't. So might as well just, panindigan mo na yan. I'm thinking kasi siguro ganun din yung thinking ng iba na panindigan ni BBM yan kasi any even I would say an iota of admission that maybe something is seriously wrong will be weaponized by DDS anyway. So how can Marcos work around this, Justice? I agree with you on a normative level. I'm looking at it from a practical
Yeah.
strategic communication point of view.
Well, Bongbong, BBM already admitted that the budget now is suboptimal. He can take off from that. Well, he will say it's suboptimal. I want it to be optimal. Then he calls for a special session because then he can explain that. I listen to people. I listen to your complaints. That's why I'm asking Congress to hold this special session. And I'm sure if he returns the allocation of PhilHealth, people will be jumping with joy.
So what is stopping him then, Justice? Again, should he? Kasi, di ba, I mean, if the numbers they show that medyo nabubugbog kayo dito, medyo you're having vulnerability, then logically, BPM, di ba, we're already giving him the, like, ito na, sir, baka naman, di ba? I'm just trying to figure out, ano yung cost-benefit analysis nila dito eh? Is he scared of alienating certain congressional allies? Does he lack what it takes to do that corrective measure? Yun nga, inisip ko nga eh. Or is he waiting for even more dramatic drops in surveys for him to say something? Because if you're BBM, you're also going to look at some of the surveys and say, well, tumataas naman ang support for impeachment. It's not like Sara's approvals are going up. And at the end of the day, parang 7, 8 out of the 12, magic 12 are admin anyway, so we're not doing too bad. And last thing I want to mention, and here, yung attack ni BBM, finally, like all-out attack na si BBM, talking about Farmali, talking about COVID-19 mismanagement, talking about West Philippine Sea, Pogo. He's used very strong language when he was there in our ancestral homeland in the Ilocos region the other day. Hindi kaya bakang strategy ni BBM ngayon is wala nang atrasan, no admission, no retreat, all-out war, frontal attack. Hindi ba kaya yun na yung decision niya ngayon? Or are you saying that may not be enough? In fact, it could even backfire. Is that what you're saying, Justice?
Well, yeah, you're right. He's up to now. His probably calculation is he doesn't have to change the budget. He will go on attack, but then the counter of the Duterte group will be the budget, and the focus will return to the budget. So it's a matter of he has to weigh if he can survive an attack on the budget. So, and for me, the fact that, as you mentioned, Bato and Go are going up again, and IME also, that that means the budget is budget issue is biting them.
Interesting. So maybe we'll just wait for the next survey. If I'm BBM, like, hintayin pa natin ang content 2 weeks kung makalusot pa tayo dito, di ba? Okay, so that raises the ultimate question, which will be the last part of our discussion for today. Because I know you need to rest also, Justice. Pasensya na. You had a long lecture, from my understanding yesterday. Saan tayo in terms of mga people who believe in good governance? Yung team kabutihan, saan ba dapat ang team kabutihan ngayon? Kasi pag ang team kabutihan ay emphasize parati na worst budget ever, this is just gonna help the Duterte team. If team kabutihan naman doesn't say much about yung mga kababalagan ng BBM administration, then parang questionable din yan. Like, so much for being kabutihan and good governance. So ano po yung Goldilocks? What is the, puro tayong middle point tayo today, di ba? All of our arguments in the middle. What is the perfect middle position for the genuine opposition? Before pag-usapan natin sa tingin nyo, sino ba itong mga genuine opposition candidates? I think you were talking about 7 at least moving forward.
Well, we're attacking both. We're questioning the budget. We're questioning Sara's expenditure of confidential funds. We're questioning the extrajudicial killings. We're equally attacking both. We want to hold both accountable for what they've done. That's exactly the position. That's why in the rally of January 31, it was an attack on both sides. No, it was not just against the budget; it was against also against Sara with calling for the impeachment of Sara.
Bakit hindi kayo sumali dun sa umaga na lang? Yan na naman ako, Justice. So talagang, ako yung talagang pasaway talaga. And I'm gonna create war among all of us. No, I'm just kidding. I completely get your point that, ang nakakatakot kasi, and I think this came out in my discussions with Chelo and Bicol, is dapat ingat din ang opposition na hindi magpagamit sa administration. I completely agree with that fear that some of our friends have. But my fear is also cuts in the other direction. So obviously it will depend on how we're reading the situation. But I have a fundamental argument here, or question rather, Justice. Is there a moral equivalency here in a sense that kung usapan ito ng billions, I can also talk about the billions of confidential fund of the Davao of the Dutertes throughout the decades. If you want to talk about billions, I can talk about Duterte's own COVID-19 budget with very questionable practices back in the day. We can talk about Farmali. But if there's one thing I can talk about Duterte that I cannot talk about BBM, at least so far, knock on the wood, is tens of thousands of dead people based on some questionable drug war. And in fairness to BBM, at least when it comes to China, hindi siya, I love China, China will protect me, make us a province of China. So, again, I'm all for not choosing between any of them, but a part of me feels that, again, I know it's beginning to sound like lesser evil argument, but it's more like, is there an equivalency, moral equivalency between the two, considering the Dutertes are accused of something even more serious than just corruption and confidential fund?
Well, for one, we have been supportive of BBM as far as the West Philippine Sea issue is concerned. I mean, I've openly said it's what he has done is music to my ears. I'm totally in support of his policy on the West Philippine Sea. But on the budget, I think we cannot escape from criticizing it because it's just too much. So, but we are not.
That's a good quote. Sorry. It's just too much, I think, is a far better quote than this is the worst ever budget. Sorry, I just think that was exaggerated. But it's just too much for us to be quiet. I think it's absolutely correct. Sorry, Justice, medyo passionate ako sa issue na yan kasi alam ko maraming galit sa akin. So, dinadamay kita. Sorry.
Well, that's it. That's what we're doing. We just have to praise them when they do what is correct. But if they do what is wrong and they don't want to correct it, then we have really to expose them.
I'll have one more question, Justice, before we go really to the last part. Between Digong, because you dealt with you dealt with Digong. I remember back in the day, you even gave him a briefing on clause. I don't know how much he could process So you met both the Digong and you also met BBM, right? Base sa inyong experience, sorry, just I'm putting you on the spot, but I think you can see where I'm going. Between the two of them, whose feet we can keep closer to the fire, meaning who could be more amenable to good counsel or self-correction? Again, it's going back to my argument of, are they really the same political species here are we talking about? Or am I putting you in, am I entrapping you like how
No,
you're
no.
entrapping Harry Roque?
I will answer that, but I'll just clarify. I I offered to give a briefing to Digong, to Duterte. He said, okay, give a briefing, but to my cabinet. So that's what happened.
Ah,
He
sorry,
did not
sorry. But you
attend.
met him in person, right? I mean, we met Digong
Yeah,
in person.
I met him in
Yeah,
person, but
okay.
when it comes to when I gave my briefing, the cabinet members were there, but not President Duterte. Uh, President Bongbong listened to attended one of my lectures, the one that I gave in the Senate. So your question is,
Who is
can you
more
rephrase?
amenable to self-correction and who is more, essentially reformable, if I can put that term. Yeah, yeah.
Well, no doubt it will be hands down. It will be BBM. Because remember, BBM during the campaign said, well, talo na tayo sa China. Wala na tayong magagawa. But right after the election, when he won, he made a complete turnaround. So somebody convinced him to, to make a 180-degree turn.
Okay, ito na papunta. Promise. Papunta tayo sa last part. I just wanted to clarify. May magtatanong, bakit din niyo sinabi si Sara Duterte? Sabi ko, wag na. Baka ma-zoom tayo ni Sara Duterte if we say something wrong about her. Justice, baka ano yun tayo ni Sara. No, but syempre, because the counter argument be, why are you comparing the father to BBM? You should compare BBM to Sara. I was like, and what is your read of Sarah? Is Sarah someone who could be reasonable and amenable to self-correction and doing the right thing, considering on West Philippine Sea?
Well, Sarah has not said a word about the West Philippine Sea.
Ayan, yan ang problema natin. Black.
So, but but she has been greeting the Chinese in Mandarin.
So maybe she said things, it's just that you and I didn't understand it. I'll tell you what, Justice Carpio, my Chinese friend also did not understand it. Like, wait, what language was that? It's like, someone explained to me the way she spoke Mandarin was like speaking French and then pronouncing the whole thing. It's like, Bordeaux, right? You say Bordeaux UX. Or Rousseau, you say Rusiao, right? Like, ganun daw yung dating sa mga Chinese na parang, anong pinagsasabi nito? Hindi naman ito Mandarin. Tuloy ginawang Chowking. Nag-order daw sa Chow. So, Justice Guard, to be fair, for all we know, Sarah has said things except neither us nor our Mandarin speaking friends understood her. So, I just need to check her script. So, yun lang. I'm just trying to be fair to Sarah Duterte. Sasabihin na namin nila, bakit purong lalaki lang pinag-usapan niyo, BBM Digong? Bakit si Sara? Alam mo naman, Justice, marami mga galit daw sa amin kasi puro kami mga misogynist daw. Parang hello. Bawal daw mag-criticize kay Sara kasi misogynist daw pag si Sara. We can only say that Duterte is, medyo Pero pag Sara, daw yan, sexist daw yan. But anyway, Justice, huwag mong patulan yan kasi problema namin ni Ronald yan at saka Christian Esquerra. Now, last point, Justice. It looks like it's Bam and Kiko have a good chance. Kiko already pasok sa SWS 12. And then sa Okta and Pulse Asia, they're right just out of the perimeter of competitiveness. So they're somewhere between 14, 15, 16. So a few percentage points here and there. Lenny Magic, as Lenny comes out in favor of Bam, could be helpful here and there. But obviously, it's not just Bam and Kiko, right? You said there were originally 8 and now 7 candidates that you believe are truly genuine opposition that you're willing to endorse. Can you name them one by one and why, Justice? Etong 7 na to. Kasi alam ko marami na magagalit bakit daw hindi sila na-mention. I won't say sino yung mga nagagalit sa mga podcast natin. Bakit di na kami na-imbita? Bakit hindi kami na dyan?
Well, we have Heidi Mendoza. and she's also going up in the ratings. Uh, we have, of course, from the from the right, we have Ariel Kerubin.
Oh, so
Uh,
you're matching it, macho and
we have uh, we have uh, our labor guy, Sani
okay,
Matula.
right, exactly. Yeah, of course. Okay, so gets ko siya because you want the progressive labor voice, right?
Yeah.
Solid. Gets ko si Heidi Mendoza kasi, of course, accountability,
Mm.
transparency, United Nation level
Mm.
technocrat, right? Bakit si General Querobin for the ako alam ko bakit, but for the purpose of the people who are
Well,
not
he's a Valor Medal of Valor awardee,
so I paid her.
bemedaled military officer. Uh, he served the country with honor, and he can represent the uniformed uh, personnel.
So you rather have him than sorry for than Lacson? Because Lacson is positioning himself as the man of the hindi lang police pero essentially the PMA people and all of that. You think
Yeah,
sorry, I'm just
we yeah. Lacson is not in our list, so uh,
and then sino pa? Justice there are two, dalawa pa, no? Um, sino pang mga okay sa inyo in terms of senatorial candidates? Parang ang daming nawala dyan. Like, mga galit na naman sa akin yung mga iba. We're gonna have Heidi Mendoza on this show soon. So, like, just to be clear.
yeah. I hope you guessed her
Yeah.
because she's going up.
Yes, she's doing very well. And paras kami ng favorite color, purple.
Mm.
Mga Team Ube, right? So Justice, your idea is that the 6 or 7, obviously, si Doc Willie Ong, unfortunately, won't be able to continue because he has to focus on his recovery and our prayers and love with his family. And of course, God willing, he'll have full recovery. Ito yung mga genuine opposition na inisip ni Justice. Ano yung mga nire-represent nila? I mean, uh, how did you what is the methodology came out? Dapat ba parang may inclusiveness of different sectors also? Parang ganun ba? Parang may kababaihan, may labor, may military, ganun
Well,
ba? Or
we had three criteria. The candidate must have integrity, uh, competence, and love for country, patriotism. Yun yung tatlong factors on which we evaluated them.
and just to clarify on this, Justice, the other day, Bam Aquino came under fire, not by me. I just made this, semi-sarcastic. I just made a clarificatory, but in a Hidarian way. Yung sinabi na yung issue ng Sara impeachment ay political lang daw. But in fairness, if you watch the full video, there's more context to that and all. And basically, ang argument ni Bam Aquino is, I could be the next senator judge, so I don't want to prejudge the issue. I have to be impartial, ganun-ganon, at focus tayo sa issue ng, alam mo na, the gut issues and all of that. Sa inyong palagay, Justice, anong dapat ang sasabihin ng isang genuine opposition candidate pag tinanong siya sa election na ito? Anong stance mo sa Sara impeachment?
Well,
If
that's
you will become
very
the next senator, by the way. So, in fact, I'm just trying to be fair also to Bam's point on the impartiality argument.
yeah. Well, that position is acceptable because they don't want to be, they should not prejudge because there's already an impeachment case filed with the Senate. Uh, they should be careful with what they're saying. If especially if we assume that Bam will be elected, anybody who's as a probable who would could probably win should be careful. Should as much as possible not comment anymore because there's already a case in the Senate, and they will surely be one of the judges.
So I think this is where I have a slight disagreement, Justice, because unang-una, I think we already established that the impeachment is really more political than a legal thing. And more importantly, you already have people like Amy Marcos, Robin Hood Padilla, among others, openly saying saan sila tataya on this issue. And pangatlo, I would say, ilan bang hearings at Mary Grace Piatos ang dapat mabuking bago natin masabi na something really wrong went on here. So, wouldn't it have been better for BAM to say, obviously, kailangan ko maging impartial. At the same time, hindi natin maitatanggi yung mga lumabas sa mga hearings. But nevertheless, I rather discuss constructive issues like you know what I'm saying? Like there's a way to get out of it while
Yeah,
kind of giving, something to eat, right? Na feeling ko yun yung kulang sa sinabi ni Bam.
yeah,
You know what I'm
he
saying?
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can give the premise that this is what happened in the House, but I have to. I will be one of the judges, so I cannot really give my personal opinion. Ganyan lang.
Exactly, exactly. And there's no way, Justice, I can let you go without asking about Donald Trump. I mean, everything we have been saying about Donald Trump, it's coming true in a sense that, oh my goodness, I mean, did he basically throw Ukraine under the bus with Pete? I don't know where's ASEAN Hagset essentially forward deploying all concessions, saying Ukraine will never be part of NATO, US will never be part of any peacekeeping. We're even hearing reports, Justice, that Trump might call for a three big powers meeting, parang essentially a new Tehran conference, right? With Beijing and Russia to decide the future of the world. I mean, that's like scary stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I think uh, Trump is joining Putin and Xi to form an axis of evil, their
My
own
God,
axis.
that's like a new, like, oh my,
Yeah,
super villain, kasi puro sila mga
because
super.
they have already,
Yeah.
because what is the worst thing that Putin has done? He invaded a country in
Yeah.
violation of the UN Charter. You cannot settle a territorial dispute by force
Mhm.
or use of force. So, and President Xi is doing the same thing in the South China Sea. They're out to overturn the foundation of the UN that all disputes between states must be settled by peaceful means without resort to force or use of force. And now Trump is saying, I will seize Gaza. I will force all the people there to transfer to another country to live outside of Gaza. And we will make Gaza the Riviera of the Middle East. It will be a business enterprise. So
Essentially,
that's
Gaza without Palestinians. That's what he's saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's in violation of the UN Charter. I mean, that's even a crime against humanity, deporting an entire
Ethnic
population,
cleansing. Yeah, it's ethnic cleansing, class.
ethnic cleansing. So, and that's why I said it's now an axis of evil. They have exactly the same frame of mind. And what is dangerous here is how can we now tell President Z, do not seize the Sprat list because that's in violation of the UN Charter. And President Z will say, oh, this is what we've discussed with Donald Trump. We can do this because he's doing it also to Gaza.
And
That's the big problem.
Greenland and Panama
And
and
Greenland and Panama
even
and
poor
who
Canadian.
knows what else.
Yeah. He might his mind might and eto na official na ICC Karim Khan facing sanctions. I think even his family members could face sanctions. South Africa facing sanctions for the ICJ case against Israel over the um what I don't know how to put that, Justice. Um it's not surprising. At the same time, a part of me is parang naiinis sa ICC na ba't pa nila hinintay na manalo si Trump? Sana na ginawa na nila lahat ng ginawa nila. Kasi ngayon, tuwan-tuwa yung mga DDS kay Trump because ICC what yeah, is in the crosshairs of the world's most powerful country. I mean, so what does that mean? I mean, at the same time, a part of me is saying, wala namang paki si Trump kay Duterte. If ever ICC goes after Duterte, he'll say, okay, whatever. Like, this is really about Netanyahu and my friends there, right? So, what is your read on that? Ako kasi, to be honest, parang bakit ang tinagalan ng ICC? Dapat last year ginawa na nila kasi ang laki ng chance manalo si Trump noon eh. At we knew what Trump was going. He was gonna sanction Karim Khan. He was gonna go after them. Or do you think the Israeli-Gaza issue was just the bandwidth, naubos yung bandwidth ng ICC na they're not in a position to the Philippine things. Kasi pati Taliban na nga na naabutan pa ng ICC eh. Malapit na rin yung Myanmar. Parang what's going on here, Justice? Am I being too much? Am I expecting too much from ICC or maybe it's not the end of the world?
Well, we've all been waiting for the warrant of arrest, but it looks like it's being postponed and postponed, no? Assuming that they will issue it. Uh, so that's it. Uh, with Trump now going after the ICC, the more they're embattled now, and the more they have to show that they can survive. They will not be distracted. But one thing is sure, the entire EU will be supporting the ICC because that's the creation of EU. So I don't think Trump can dismantle the ICC on his own without the EU, and the EU will never dismantle the ICC. So Trump can give the prosecutors of the ICC a hard time, but that will be enough. That will not be enough uh, to terminate the existence of ICC.
So we have last 2 minutes before we hit the 1 hour mark, Justice. Do you think it makes sense I call it strategic collective bargaining, meaning magsama-sama tayong lahat, us, the Europeans, maybe the Japanese and Australians and all of us, sabay-sabay natin sabihin sa US, no, you're not gonna just force your way through this. Donald Trump, you're no longer the emperor of the world, right? This is not America's world anymore. We will fight back and we'll hold the line if you're not willing to help get out. I mean, do you think that could be the way forward? That we could work with Europeans and some of the other democracies and say, why, bakit tayo na hostage to the whims of Trump or whoever has his ears, Elon Musk or whatever? Because, I mean, to be honest, I don't even think Trump knew about Greenland really until someone whispered something in his ear. So this guy is just going, he, I think there's a quote from him, right? He's just going with the punches. He literally used that term, right? He's just going with his punches. So hindi ba dapat tayo mga allies and democracies kind of stand together and draw the line?
Yeah, we should. But there's a large segment of American society that is against the position of Trump, and we must send a message that they should talk also, because what Trump is actually doing is helping Russia and China overturn the foundational principle of the UN, that you cannot use force to settle a territorial dispute. And if Trump is on their side, how can we beat China? How can we stop China? Because it's only the US that's stopping China. That's it. That's the problem. Uh, Trump doesn't understand that what he's doing in Gaza will is helping China in the South China Sea, justifying China's action in the South China, justifying Russia's action in Ukraine.
I just
And
yeah,
and
mm.
this will hurt the US, because next time when they ask the world for support to go against a country that's invading another country, nobody will everybody will say, but you were against the principle of the UN.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I mean, ako, my practical advice is just work with people who are sympathetic there. So, Secretary Manal just had a very good meeting with Marco Rubio on the sidelines of the Munich conference, and Marco Rubio very strongly supported the Philippines on the South China Sea issue. But for me, just work with them and then maybe play into their egos. So, for instance, one country that is very successful in playing to America's psyche, essentially the Trumpian psyche, is Poland, right? Poland now is the favorite European country of because they have been showing very strong macho foreign policy. Foreign Minister Sikorski was here a few months ago, and we interviewed him on our show, and he said Philippines could be like the Poland of Asia in a good way, meaning, yeah, you're mid-size and all, but if you show to Trump na palaban ka and all, which we are doing in the West Philippine Sea, actually baka matuwa pa si Trump sa'yo. Do you think maybe that's our option B now, that basically we'll schmooze our way with Trump and be kind of like the Poland, like, yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, like, I know we're not superpowers and all, but we're also palaban. And the reason I want to mention is that because the president of Poland has a very good relationship with Trump. He was in the Trump Tower a few months ago. Nag-dinner daw sila, and in that dinner, he gave a dramatic account of na sobrang kawawa yung Poland. I mean, 3 times he disappeared from the map, di ba? And that apparently worked with Trump. So maybe we should also send over some people from Philippines to tell the dramatic case of. No, diba, just it's like this is the reality of like how Machiavellian way of dealing with someone like Trump. Like we have to, find a way to keep him, keeping on our side, basically, right? On the China
Yeah.
challenge, even if we
Well,
don't have China's power and status and the leverages that superpowers have.
one thing that we can do, because it's also good for us, is to tell Trump we will uh, we will comply with your call to NATO to spend 2% of GDP on military defense. We will do that also. He will be happy. But I mean, we're not giving away anything because we really have to do that anyway. And we should be preparing just in case Trump walks away from us.
I have another advice. Damihan natin yung mga Trump Towers sa Philippines. I think that always helps. One in Cebu, one in Davao, one in Baguio. I think everything will be fine. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Justice Carpio, for this really wide-ranging and interesting discussion. Thank you, Justice, for your extreme, extreme generosity of time. I know you've been exhausted, and I hope your Sabbath day tomorrow will be a restful one and a blessed one. And Justice, hope we can catch up again in person soon. I'm trying to arrange something, or baka disturbo na naman kami sa ni Ronald or someone else soon, dahil marami tayong pag-usapan. Justice, of course, people, I think should read really the book, no, The Internationalists. No, that's a fantastic book about how the post-World
Yeah.
War order of that might is not right.
And
Yeah.
we need that now because you have China and Russia trying to overturn the world order, and Trump has joined them. We need more internationalists.
Who are patriotic at the same time. That's not
Yeah.
mutual. You can be an internationalist patriotic, just like you, diba? Using international law for our national interest. Salamat, Justice, my favorite
Okay.
internationalist in Manila. Talk to you soon po. God bless. Have a lovely weekend.
Okay, Richard. Thank you. Thank you to
Salamat.
our